Hello, listeners, and welcome to the final episode of The New Recommender. I'm sorry to have to deliver the news to you in this way. I'm sure it will come as a shock to you all. It was a shock to me, frankly, and in some ways I'm the one responsible. I hope this 300th episode special would be an occasion to celebrate all the podcasts that have come out under the Recommender banner, and that will still happen, but it's only right and appropriate that we take some time to mourn the passing of a friend. Please rest assured I will explain everything later in the episode. First, Jeff Roberts will be sharing some words about the deceased. As many of you know, Jeff was a great friend to the podcast over the years. He was there right at the beginning, and he's here at the end.
For me, it was the suddenness of the news that hit the hardest. Just last week, I was talking about how I had so many other things going on in my life. The New Recommender was just something else on my plate, and not something important either. What a fool I was. As Johnny Mitchell wrote, you don't know what you've got till it's gone. And I think because I wasn't there for the day-to-day, I just assumed it would carry on forever. Well, you know what they say about assuming. The Recommender, original and new, was a survivor. Born just prior to a global pandemic, somehow it made it through the quagmire of remote recording, corporate failings, and malevolent businessmen to reach 300 episodes, a monumental achievement in broadcasting of any kind. We're talking about the first ever dedicated recommendation podcast, and that's something no one can ever take away. What do I remember most about my experience on the podcast? The laughs, no doubt about it. Monty Don's compost story, Natalie Cassidy's Doc Cotton impression, and the time Johan almost choked on some extremely dark chocolate. Boy, oh boy, did they make me laugh. This is a format that allowed for the whole gamut of human emotion. There were smiles and tears and some of the deepest conversations about life I've ever had. Today, there's grief. As Ivan Berlin wrote, the song is ended, but the memory lingers on. It wasn't all plain sailing, of course. No one's denying that. That's life, isn't it? That's podcasting. But what I can say is that when things were tough, when what I needed was comfort and support, the Recommender and the New Recommender were there for me. Always. And I know that all of our listeners are nodding along right now as well. To paraphrase the writer Denise Anvil, to me, you were more than just a podcast. You were a place where I finally felt at home. In difficult times, we all like a good moan. It's only natural. But the greatest thing this podcast has taught me is the value of looking for the good in everything. People, places, activities, food and drink. To recommend is to share, to enjoy and to love. And if we kept that sense of positivity in our hearts, the one that the Recommender brand podcast so exemplified, then I think the world would be a better place. In closing, I'd like to quote a poem that was inspired by the New Recommender, written by none other than Johan Morris. In 10 years' time, we'll talk about the past, and the memories that flood back fast will be of times we shared on our podcast. Our podcast. Doesn't that just say it all?
Thank you, Jeff. That was lovely. Now, as we reflect on 300 episodes of audio content, I invite you to join me in a moment of silence.
Long-time friend of the podcast, Dave PA, has contributed a special audio memorial to the Recommender. Johan asked that I share the sad news with Dave, and when I did, he very kindly offered to sound engineer this episode at his previous rate. So thanks Dave and DPA Sound for that. I haven't heard his memorial piece yet, but I have no doubt that it will be a very professional bit of work. So by all means, Dave, drop it in here.
Welcome to the New Recommender, hosted by me, Johan Morris.
And me, Jeff Roberts.
We are back.
We're back. Complete recommendation.
My recommendation is for my favourite piece of clothing. It's a canvas jacket made by Rocha John Rocha that unfortunately is not currently in my possession.
Highest recommendation.
Dislocated my shoulder. I dislocated my shoulder.
Since that report, it has come out that Johan was the man arrested, and at the time of recording, he remains in custody.
John Starham himself came to the conclusion that there was no way I would burn down the Starham audio studio. He is just a class act and a true gentleman.
This is now a Starham Sound podcast.
Spicy,
Oh, yeah.
flavourful,
Delicious.
and tasty.
Really, really nice.
Strongest recommendation.
Tray of Sunshine Cafe slash shop.
Personal recommendation.
Tray of Sunshine shop slash cafe.
Maximum recommendation.
Dislocated my shoulder. I dislocated my shoulder.
Total recommendation.
Yes, we are going on the road for a 10-day tour across the UK.
Long story short, he had some sort of medical incident or emergency during the ultramarathon. They don't think there's any brain damage, but we'll just have to wait and see on that.
And there's one person at the root of all the issues I've mentioned, and that's John Starham. So what I've done in the past week is take back the new Recommender, and I am determined to restore our reputation in the eyes of listeners.
I've decided to move on from my role as the full-time co-host of the new Recommender.
Sincere recommendation.
Dislocated my shoulder. I dislocated my shoulder.
It's really been an explosion of popularity for the brand, and I'm just trying to keep my feet on the ground and to stay humble.
Heartfelt recommendation.
It's the jacket. It actually is. This is the single best present I've ever had in my life. Solemn recommendation.
What a wonderful collage of memories there. Fantastic stuff, Dave.
Yeah, a fitting tribute.
Now, listeners, the least I can do in the circumstances is give you an explanation, my side of the story. So that's what I'm going to do. They say if you love something, let it go. And no one loved this more than me. And that is why I had to let it go. This incarnation of TNR is over. The Recommender / new Recommender, as presented by Johan Morris, has passed on to the next life. And from this point forward, it will be a Pod Machine podcast. Over the past week, we had a number of frank conversations about what would be next in the future, short and long term. And during the course of those discussions, it became clear that it wasn't me that they wanted when I signed with them. It was the idea. It was the intellectual property. It was what some would say is the original recommendation podcast format. And I don't mind saying things got personal. I accused them of being underhanded and ruthless in their business practices. And they said I was unprofessional and unfocused in mine. They said I was wasting $1 million idea, and that's why they could only offer me a 5-figure sum. Obviously, my first reaction was to dismiss it. I couldn't believe they suggested it. But then I thought about everything I've achieved and everything I've been through. And I thought about Jeff and Tray of Sunshine and how if he could put a price tag on something he loved so much, then perhaps I could too. I mentioned a couple of weeks ago how there was a new estate being built near me, and I confessed that I've been drawn to the idea of starting again, starting fresh. And with my ex-girlfriend out the picture, with the Starham syndrome research stalled, now feels like the time for something new. And unfortunately, despite its name, the new Recommender is not that. A new home to fill with new memories. That's what I need right now. And with the price of houses these days, you've got to be pragmatic. So I got back in touch with Pod Machine, and I told them I accepted their offer. I would sell the new Recommender. Yes, it hurt, because this is special. But just because it's over doesn't mean it stops being special. If anything, I think now we can all truly appreciate what it is that we had. And with the way Jeff's found himself back in the world of sweet baked goods, it gives me hope that even if my time with the new Recommender has come to an end, if podcasting still has a place for me, we'll find it together. Recommender brand podcast will continue under Pod Machine with a new presenter or presenters, maybe even with a different name. And I understand if you have mixed feelings right now, listeners. A lot of you probably have entirely negative feelings about the prospect of the brand continuing without me and to a lesser extent without Jeff. But this is still our baby. It's just that it's left home. Our little guy's all grown up and it's time to see what it can do on its own. So please do give the new Recommender your support. Give it a go. And if you don't like it, at least you'll have tried. Will the next incarnation ever be the real recommender? No, of course not. But it's time to say goodbye. And I'm so thankful that we're all here together to share in this moment. So, Jeff, I'd like to end by asking what it is you're up to. What is next for you?
Still doing 2 jobs, still very busy. The recipe development work at McVitie's has been, it's been incredible. Feels like a whole new world has opened up, really. I'm learning so much every day. But the marketing stuff, that's my bread and butter. And maybe at some point I'll have to make a choice, a difficult choice, like you've had to make this week. But right now, honestly, yeah, things couldn't be better. How about you?
Well, I've put a deposit down on that new place, like I said, which is very exciting. Should be moving in a couple of months. And work-wise, I'm putting the feelers out there, I suppose, because I want to do some consultancy work. As a broadcaster, as a business owner, I feel like I've got so much knowledge that I want to pass on. And, if people are willing to pay a fee, then I will happily share that knowledge with them. But to be honest, the passion right now is poetry. It really is. My ex-girlfriend had faults, but she did encourage me to write my poems. And ironically, our split has been a source of some really good material. So I'm pleased to say that I will be self-publishing my first volume of poetry this summer.
Wow, fantastic. I can't wait for that.
And I can't wait to see what you come up with for McVitie's.
Well, if you ever fancy a bit of extra cash, you can come in and do some taste testing.
Ooh, well, I might take you up on that. Right then, listeners, that's it. It's the end. Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey. I've been Johan.
I've been Jeff.
And this has been the Final Recommender.